Hey everybody, welcome in that new video about environment variables and launchers. So this is kind of a different video than usual where we're going to speak more about pipeline and good practices. Here we're going to speak about how you can use bat files, so under Windows, to launch your favorite application with the right environment. So just a quick word about environment variables. So those are variables, as the name tells, that you set up for your operating system. And within Golaem, you can use those variables for multiple things. You can use it to define how you want to use your license, but also to set up some properties regarding the way the simulation will work by default. So you can set up the unit, what's the default behaviors for the layout editor, for the character maker, and so on and so forth. One really good practice is rather setting it into your environment, and it will be shared by all your application. You can set it into a bat file, and if you set it within a bat file, it will just be available for your application when you use that bat file. So there's plenty of advantages using bat files. Let's say you want to use a specific version of rendering engine and Maya version and Golaem version. You can use that bat files to define this configuration and maybe create another bat file to create another definition. So bat is the extension for Windows to recognize script files, and here we're going to write a couple of commands here to set up environment variables and launch your favorite application. First, maybe let me show you how you set up an environment variable into your system. So you can go within your start menu in Windows, and you can start typing env for environment variables, and it will, as best match, it will set you to edit the system environment variables. You end up with that system properties panels, and you've got a button called environment variable here, and you've got two panels which list a couple of variables which already exist. Most of the time it's some application which define them for you, and there's one which is for the current user, so that's only for you, and there is one panel here which is for all users of this workstation. So let's say I want to define a new environment variable. I can create a new one, and I can type a name. Let's say I want to define my license. I'm going to type Golaem license with uppercase, and here what I want to point out is either server license. So if I'm using a floating license, I can write 2377/75, which is the default port of your license, but check your license files for that data, and the name of your license server. So if you're on a network, that's usually the name of that computer. Else, if it's a node loc license, you can use the browse file here, and you can just fetch your license here, select it, and say this is going to be your license, and now you've got the path to your license. So that's one way of setting it up. So here I'm not going to use it because else it will be written for the system. And by the way, if you use this panel, you may have to restart your computer or exit your current user session for that variable to be read properly from the rest of the applications. So I tend not to use this. Rather than using the system variables, I tend to write those variables into a specific file to do that. So here I've defined a Maya launcher.bat file, and I save this file here. So if I click on it, nothing happens because I haven't defined any instruction. So let's define some. The first thing I probably want to do is a Maya launcher. So I would like to launch Maya. So if I want to launch Maya, I'll check where's my favorite Maya application. So I want to launch Maya 2018 here. So I'm going to open the file location. That brings me to a shortcut. I can recognize that shortcut because it has the arrow next to it. And if I just check the properties, I can see that that shortcut points to C program files Maya 2018 bin maya.exe. So whenever you open Maya, this is the actual command you want to launch. So I'm going to copy this and put it into my launcher. I'm going to save it, And now if I go into the launcher and double click on this, it's gonna launch that command here. So it's gonna call Maya exe, which is the application file, and it's gonna start Maya. So far so good. So I'm not gonna let my, well, let's get it being loaded. So okay, all good, and probably yeah, and probably I want Golem to be loaded, but I'm not using the default system here, so I probably want to set this up as well. So next step is here, probably you don't need to do that, but on my computer I don't want Golem to install anything outside its own folder. So I'm using the Maya module pass, but once again, if you just let the default attributes with the installer, with the Golem installer, you don't have to do this. But if you don't let it do it, you'll have to define the Maya module pass and make it point to the path to the directory where Golaem crowd mod file is located. So usually it's just you know, at the installation directory, at the root of the installation directory of Golem. So I want to set this environment variable, and that will be a good example. So I'm going to set Maya module pass. So I want to say, okay, this is the name of the variable I want to set. And I'm going to put an equal to say I want to assign a specific value to that. And I'm going to browse to my Golem directory here, which is into program files, Golem, and I probably want to load the latest version here. So we can see here there's a point mod file. So this is exactly where we want to point this at. So I'm going to copy that directory here and put it there. So now I'm saying that Maya module pass will contain that value here. I can use a semicolon, and here I could maybe put some other paths of my other plugins. Maybe I've got Yeti or Arnold or whatever. So I can put other passes which points to other MOD file, other mode files. And something I really want to do is here, if I just use equal like this, if there were some values into that variable before, so let's say maybe you set some values in your system, if you just do this, you're going to override that value. So let's say you had Arnold set up somewhere into your system. So okay, I closed the window, but that system properties variable that I had before, let's say it's set up to some values, you're going to lose that. So if you want to be able to keep that value, what you want to do is at the end of that assignment, you want to concatenate Maya module pass once again, and make sure that the system interprets it as an environment variable. You need to put some %sign before and after. And now you're saying, okay, into Maya module pass, I'm going to put what I had before, and I'm going to head to this, the Golem path. So let's save this and launch this once again. So launcher, here we go. So now we can see we've got Maya module pass set to some value, and apparently there wasn't anything into this, else we would probably see, you know, the full pass of other plugins there. And after that, we're launching Maya. So this is where I'm get prompt with my license checking. And if everything goes well, I should also be able to load Golem. So let's see if that worked. Okay, and okay, I've got an auto launch onto my Golem plugin, so this is why I'm getting the Golem menu, else you'll have to go into the plugin manager. Now it's saying that this Maya session is using a Golem personal learning license, and all files saved using this session will be rendering limited to make sure that if you don't get that message, you can see it into the script editor. So into the script editor, we're having something called no Golem for Maya commercial license found. So now it's set up to personal learning edition. And if you go into the Golem about section, you have Golem for Maya 7 personal learning edition, and the license, the learning license expires in 5,000 days more or less. So we're not good, and also we're having the lock here, which tells that the license is not allowed. We are in PLE mode, so personal learning edition mode. So if we take a look at the documentation, we need to define something called golem_license. And if it's a license server, we want to use the number of the port at the name of my license server. So usually 2377 is the default port at the name of your license server machine. Else, if you're not using a license server, you want to point to your license file that you received from us. So let's define another variable, set. The name of that variable will be Golem license. Let's copy it to make sure that we do not make any mistake in the name. And the path to that license is within, I put my licenses here. So C licenses, golem full.lic. So let's copy this here, put a backslash and copy that path. Make sure that you don't make any mistakes. And now you set up your Golem license to that value here. And if I launch Maya again from my launcher, I saved it. Now I can launch it. Now it tells the Golem license has been set to that value here. Maya module path has been set to my Golem version I want to use. And after that, I want to launch Maya. So first I define my variables and then launch Maya. So it has the right, the right definition within it. Great. And now no more error message. And if I go into the About section, now it tells me that Golem for Maya 7 full license has been found. If you want to troubleshoot anything what happens, some best practice is also to check if from your Maya session, your environment variable has been set properly. So in Mel, you can use the getenv command, and if you use the double quotes here, you can put any name of environment variable, put a semicolon at the end and evaluate, and now you're asking, okay, from this Maya session, what's the value of this? You know, sometimes you can have some mismatch about the value of the environment variable is not set properly or has not been updated properly. So by using it into your context, you can check if it looks proper. There's also something in Python to do it. It's within OS. Print, I'm not sure exactly what's the syntax. So let me check. Python environment variable. os.getenv. Okay, not bad. So we want to print os.getenv, and once again we want to put the name of our environment variable that we want to evaluate, and evaluate this. And from Python we can see that the value of that Golem license is also C licenses golem full.lic. So now we're set it properly. So maybe also let's play with something more advanced. Let's say you've got multiple versions of Maya, and you may notice that if you load Maya 2020 or Maya 18, you'll have to change the path in multiple locations. So what you can do is define something called maybe, I don't know, like Maya version, and we're gonna assign the value 2018. And what we can do is replace that 2018 sign with a Maya version here. So I use the person next to it, so the system will know that it will have to replace it by an environment variable value. And let's put it here, there and there. Okay, so if I set it to 2018 and I put my launcher, I'll execute my launcher, I'll have a 2018 session. If I set it to 2020, for example, and launch this, now I should get my Maya 2020 launching. And as I haven't been launching it today, it probably will take a bit longer. But yeah, I can see this is Autodesk Maya 2020 being loaded into the background. I replaced the splash grid, so this is why you're not getting the casual one. And when it's good, it's gonna launch Maya 2020 in the background. So yeah, just a good way to have variables within variables. And I also wanted to show you something. Let's say for some reasons you made a mistake, maybe in some pass, and you're not really sure what's going on here. So here the pass is not correct. When you launch the launcher, you don't get anything. If we were like have bionic eyes, we'll probably see the command windows which will pop, display an error, but we don't have the time to read that error. So what you can do is at the end of your script, you can add an instruction called pause, and you can save. And whenever you now launch your system, rather than closing right away, you will pause the window. And now you can evaluate what's going on here. So here, Maya version is correct. Concatenation of the license is correct. The module, there's nothing else, so that's good. And as soon as we launch Maya, we can see that the system cannot find the path specified. So we've got the error nature. And if we inspect the name, we'll figure, oh, okay, here, that's not the right stuff going on here. So thank you. So you can press any key to continue. It will close the comment. And now you can fix your error, save. And if you want to remove the pause at the end, you can just use, I'm not sure what's the 2 dots sign. You put it twice, and that'll just make a comment into your document and save it. And the next time I'm gonna use that launcher, I'll be good. Okay, final stuff. Let's say we want to change the default units. So within Golaem, we have got crowd units, and that crowd unit can be used to change, various stuff regarding what's the default unit within Golaem. So by default, it's set up to meters, but sometimes, the studio you work in works in a different unit, and you don't want to, every time change that unit yourself manually, because it has to be changed here, and it also has to be changed into the nav mesh computing. So it's kind of a pain. And so let's say you always work in decimeters or in centimeters. This is not something you want to do every single time. So what you can do is define that specific variable we've been defining into Golaem, and it tells you that you can change the value of the default Golaem unit. So 0 stands for millimeters, 1 for centimeters, 2 for decimeters, 3 for meters, 4 for inches, feet or meters. Well, we've got twice inches. Probably I need to fix the document here. It's probably yard somewhere. By the time you check the video, it will be different. But let's say, okay, default unit is meters, and we want to use centimeters. So the value we want to produce is going to be 1. So let's go into our document. Let's put this, let's say here. So set glm crowd underscore units equals 1. And let's go back into Maya 2018 and launch that file again. So I save it. Now I launched it. So now I'm saying crowd unit equals 1. Let's launch Maya once again. And let's check if the default unit has been read properly. So that's is working for Maya, but also for Katana, 3ds Max, Unreal. I'm having launchers for every single application. So I wrote them just once, and anytime I need to change anything, I just edit the file and I replace my default shortcuts in my system by those ones. So let's create a quick scene. So the manager appears, and now we can see that the crowd unit default value is centimeters, which is awesome. And if we go into the nav mesh creator, we can see that the crowd unit by default is centimeters as well. So yeah, you're good, you're all set. And maybe we can add a command. Will be good practice to say set the crowd unit to centimeters. So the next time you go into that file, you know what exactly you put that variable in. And this is set the Golaem license. Oh, and maybe quick addition as well. As soon as you got a license, it's also good practice to make sure that if the license run out, or if someone catch the license before you into the system, and you don't want to fall back into PLE, because if you don't have any license, or if your license expires, you'll go back into the learning edition mode. And if you don't pay attention to being into the learn edition mode, you're going to watermark all your scenes and caches, and that's something you really want to avoid. So what you can do is maybe define a variable called no PLE, which means that if you set that variable to 1, whatever happens with the licenses, you'll never fall back into learning edition, and you'll never watermarks your files. So it's usually good practice to do it as soon as you're not into evaluation mode and you set up as production. So no PLE equals 1. And let's say I don't define any license. Let's say my license expires, or I don't have any license anymore. If I launch Maya once again and load Golaem once again, you'll see that the default behavior that we had before, that we were into Learning Edition, will not be there anymore, and we'll be into safe mode, which is no license mode. So you'll not be able to contaminate or watermark your file. So you can see the shelf is pretty grayed out. If we go, we don't have the Golaem menu anymore because we can't use Golaem. And if I open the Golaem render menu, because rendering does not require a license, so you can still render stuff, you'll see that you don't have any Golaem Maya layout or regular license, and you're without any license right now. So I'll make sure that if I don't have any license, I don't contaminate my files. So it was quite a long video, but that was just giving you, the basics about using a bat file. So if you want, you can also, do exactly the same with the edit environment variable system, but I just find it less versatile to use the system. And also it means that, if you want to set up one unit in Maya and one unit in Unreal, you can't really do it into the system because it will be shared by all your application. Whereas if you do it within bat files, it's really local to your session. You can change it every time you launch Maya. You can have different values of variables and have Maya reacting differently. So hope that helps, and see you into the next video.